everyone, and welcome. You're listening to the next episode of Turn Zero Drive Home Edition. This is a solo Marvel Snap podcast where I talk about the latest info you need before you start your first turn of the game while I drive home from work. I'm your host, August, so let's drive home. Alright, so coming up soon, like in a couple weeks, is the February season, and through data mines we know this to be related to the Guardians of the Galaxy. What I want to talk about today was something specifically data mined in this season that is pretty new to Marvel Snap that I haven't seen a lot of people talking about yet. So there's a card called Major Victory whose on reveal ability says to add 2 of the members of the Guardians crew to your hand. So if you remember Team Clash that we just had a couple weeks ago, there was a lot of emphasis around factions or specific teams and the members of those teams. This is not that. So what this is it's a specific list of just 6 cards, 6 Guardians that it can be pulled that can pull from this: Mantis, Rocket Raccoon, Star-Lord, Drax, Groot, and Gamora. It's not the whole list that we saw in Team Clash. I think there was about 18 to 20 members of those Guardians. It's not that. And the reason this is interesting is because it also ties into a new location that's coming next season. So there's the Milano location. Older people that have been playing Snap will remember this used to be a location that was you can only play cards here on turn 5. It's since been changed. The data mines that we can see show us that the Milano is now going to say, when it's revealed, add a Guardians crew member to your hand. So now we've got 2 things coming out in February that are interacting and working with those specific 6 Guardians. So the first thing that I thought when I saw all this is I looked back at them and I thought, wow, okay, so these Guardians are going to need some work, because I don't really know if I want to draw or have added to my hand a Groot, right? Like, Groot is just 3/3 on reveal. If your opponent played a card here, it gets +4. That's okay, but we have way better 3s now than that. Drax is a 4 cost that does a similar thing. They all want to keep that +4 theming if your opponent played a card there, but the only ones that really take advantage of that are Rocket and Star-Lord, and even Star-Lord isn't really played much. Rocket is good for bounce decks because him being a 1 cost. So basically the Guardians kind of suck, and it seems kind of strange to me that you would want to have 2 feature things in a new season really heavily revolve around those pretty mediocre cards, right? Those are season or series 1 and 2 cards that have long since been outclassed. Even in the Team Clash mode that we just had, where it featured those Guardians as a team, they all had different stats, different abilities. They played so much more differently. And so I thought, okay, maybe these cards are pulling those versions, right? What if Major Victory was adding one of the Guardians of the Galaxy from the Team Clash to your hand? But actually, no, that's not what the data might suggest. So I was thinking maybe they have to go back on the drawing board for these guys. Sometimes when a new season happens, we see the OTAs will kind of revolve around cards that fit that season that aren't new. Giving cards that need a buff, but they wait for a more thematic moment for it than just throwing it into any old OTA. I think one of the biggest examples of this that I remember is Agatha getting a buff when her TV show was coming out. They did the same thing with Nick Fury. So these are kind of small one-off things. But I could see a world where the first OTA in February has a big buff for all 6 of these guys, right? So I looked at all the Guardians and I thought, okay, so what is it that we can buff with them? So I looked at them, I looked at their Team Clash versions, and I thought, okay, how would I fix the Guardians of the Galaxy? And I came up with a couple of ideas. So these are not data mines. These are not, inside information. These are just straight up predictions, guesses, designs by me, whatever you want to call it. Right? So I'm not doing anything here except hoping to predict the future a little bit. These are things I'd like to see changed, and hopefully we get something resembling something like this. So Mantis. Mantis is right now a 1/2 with on reveal. If your opponent played any cards here this turn, copy one of them into your hand. I want to keep that theme. I want to keep the if your opponent played a card here, get a bonus, because I think it's kind of unique. Marvel Snap as a game features, the 3 locations, right? And it's about outsmarting your opponent, about figuring out the numbers they can put down. And so having cards that benefit off of your opponent playing where you're playing at the same time with the simultaneous reveal is cool to me. I just think they need, better payoffs. So for Mantis, my thought would be I would want to make it a 0/2, and I want to make it copy the first card. So in Team Clash, Mantis was a 0 cost. I like the idea of all 6 of the Guardians crew having 6 different costs, right? It just kind of looks appealing to me, like visually, right? 0/1 was the Team Clash version, but we don't really want 1 power things on the board that don't do much, right? That's clogging a lot of space. The Team Clash mode also had an extra +1 on Guardian cards when they're played at different locations. So to kind of simulate that in the real proper game, I think it could be a 0/2. And instead of it being randomly copying something that they played, I wanted to just copy the first card they played. So that ordering matters more for the opponent. If you think, okay, maybe there's going to play this Mantis and copy my card, maybe I play a weaker card first before I play the big guy for the turn, right? I just think that would be a more interesting card. Is that too overpowered as a 0 cost? Maybe. To be honest, when you look at the 0 costs we have now, Yellow Jacket is a 0/2, but he has a bad ability where he afflicts your side with -1s, and Wasp is a vanilla with just a 0/1, right? So if there was a way I could be 0/1.5, that would probably be more ideal. After Mantis, Rocket Raccoon, 1/1 on reveal. If your opponent played a card this turn, +4 power. I don't want to change this one at all. I think Rocket is a banger. Rocket sees play now still, in bounce decks, right? With combining him with Joaquin Torres or Beast or Toxin and pick him back up and do it again. You can get some pretty big numbers off of this guy. I don't want that to change. I think anything that we could do in the name of trying to make it better would just make it worse. I remember playing Team Clash, and every time I played Rocket, I'd be like, "Oh crap, it's not a 1/5." It had a different ability completely, and nope, don't want to change that. Star-Lord is a 2/2 on reveal, +4 power. Clause if they played a card there. I want to change him slightly. I liked what they were doing in the Team Clash mode where, he's the Guardians leader, so he buffed all the Guardians. I like that idea. So I'm thinking, what if Star-Lord was a 2/4, give each Guardians crew in your hand or here +2 power. So that would include himself. So what you would do is you play him. You still have to catch the opponent. You still got to do if your opponent played here. So you play it at the same time as your opponent in the same location. Suddenly, Star-Lord is a 2/6, and he also buffed everyone in your hand by 2, all your Guardians crew guys. I think that'd be kind of cool. Maybe the numbers are a bit overtuned. Maybe it could just be +1 bonuses. Maybe he can be a 2/1 himself, right? I was trying to keep the kind of numbers that he gives out now. Right now, he's a 2/2 with +4 on himself, so he still becomes a 2/6. So maybe if we change that so that, we can have a more wide buff. If instead of giving, I don't want to go crazy and give +4 to everybody, but if I can just give a moderate +2 to the Guardians crew, I think that'd be kind of cool, especially if you can reproc that ability a couple times. I think it's fitting for the leader of the Guardians of the Galaxy to be helping the whole team, not just himself. Which coincidentally is the theme, the moral that he kind of learns throughout the movies, eh? All right, so Groot is a 3/3 with plus 4 power. Like they all kind of have this kind of normal, generic, kind of boring ability, right? So when you looked at Team Clash, Groot did something completely different. He was a 4 cost even. He had like a weird discard ability. I don't know if we want that per se. I think I want the Guardians crew to kind of work together. So I thought it'd be cool if one of them could help reproc those honor reveals. So my thought was like maybe if Groot was like a 3/5, if they played a card here, copy an honor reveal here. This would let you kind of double up on your Guardians crew cards while still having to make sure they play a card there, right? I thought Groot would be a good fit for this because he has that moment where, he says, he's always saying, I am Groot. That's the only thing anyone can understand from him. But eventually he's able to say, we are Groot. Or even, you spend enough time with him, you can understand what he's saying. So I kind of like the flavor of he can help you do the same thing you're doing because you're united now. You work as one. You understand each other. Is it too overpowered to have a Guardians crew that can reproc on reveals? I mean, we've seen Odin. We see a lot of Wong. We see a lot of different copy on reveal stuff these days, like with Prodigy or with Chameleon. Like I think we're finding that there is this space that 3 cost cards have where they can copy other on reveals. So it would be fitting, I think, to give him one of these. Drax, very simple. I loved what they did with Team Clash with him with the double his power. I want main game Drax to have that. It was so fun being able to bounce Drax and play him again and double him again and double him again. I think that was probably one of the reasons for the success that I had with the Guardians deck in that mode. It was my most played mode team in Team Clash, and largely in part because of Drax being able to double. A 4 cost that can double, what would you give that power to? I would want to do 5, but I think that might be like power creeping Black Panther a little bit. If you just had a 4/5 that doubled on reveal, even with the clause of you having to play it when your opponent plays a card there. So maybe it would have to be like a 4/4. So we've got a 4/4 Drax that doubled his power. I think that'd be cool. That's the change I would make. And then last but not least, we have Gamora. I remember when Team Clash was spoiled, or data mined, or announced, all that stuff, and we saw Gamora was no longer gaining power, but was destroying the lowest cost. A lot of us, myself included, thought that was a huge nerf. We were like, man, we don't want to destroy the lowest cost card. We want to be able to just have a 5/12. And the more I played that deck, the better she felt. Because, and when you first read it and you think lowest cost card, you look at a location and you go, oh, okay, so it's going to kill a 1 or a 2 cost, right, if you're lucky. But in reality, you're using Gamora on like an open lane to try and contest them there and be like, okay, if you're playing here this turn, I'm killing your thing. And it's like a weird juggernaut, because if you play it late and on a location where they haven't contested you yet, you're blowing up their 5 cost. You're blowing up their big guy that they're just trying to hope to solo the lane with. I want that in the main game as well. So I think if we keep her, we might have to lower some of Gamora's stats. Like if she's a 5/8 right now, that gets +4, so she's like a 5/12. I think Gamora could probably be just like a 5/7 that destroys the lowest cost card, and I think that would see play. You'll notice that I was heavily inspired by the Team Clash version. I think they put a lot of work into making like a revamped version of the Guardians crew in that mode, and it would be very strange to me to see that work kind of fall into the wayside and not utilized when you're having a season that's focusing on the Guardians. Now I know that the season isn't per se focusing on these Guardians, right? Like we have a new Star-Lord coming out, a new Drax card coming out, and just a bunch of other different Guardian members that aren't in the game yet. But this clue that I have here that I just can't shake, right? So we see 2 different new things. We see the Milano location and we see the Major Victory card, both revolving around this Guardians crew, and I can't imagine that they would just keep them in this mediocre state when they want to have, this fun and engaging new quote-unquote keyword, right? What do you guys think? Am I way off base? Can we have new things like this and still keep the regular Series 1 versions of these Guardians, and it would still be good? Like, is Major Victory still a good card if it's pulling 2 members of the OG Guardians? Like, maybe. Like, it's not as clear cut to me as I think other people think. So I'm curious on what we could be thinking here. Do you think any of the Guardians need a buff? How would you buff them? Am I completely off base here? Please let me know. Tell me in the comments, and we'll see if we can get a discussion going. But other than that, that's what I wanted to talk about today. I think I'm excited for this Guardian season, as you can probably tell, and I'm looking forward to what we can find out in the next coming weeks about it. Until then, I'll catch you later. Thanks.